up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We'll look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, good to see you this evening.
Yeah, good to be back. Sorry I had to miss last week.
Hey, it happens.
It happens.
Next, we've got from the domain of cats, apparently, Pete. Pete, glad to have you with us.
What cats? What cats? There's no cats here.
I know, never, no cats anywhere. And we've got a full platoon tonight. We've got Steve. Steve, how you doing?
Hey. I'm hanging in there.
Sometimes that's all we can ask. Guys, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share. That way you'll never miss any episodes we got coming up. And we've got some kind of fun ones coming up. So make sure you're there. And so you can always be aware of what's going on. Tonight, as requested by Kate, we are doing Sword in the Stone. It is actually the Sword in the Stone 60th anniversary of when it came out.
Wow.
So it came out in 1963. It was the last full movie that Walt actually had a hand in. Last full animated movie that Walt actually had a hand in. He did participate in Jungle Book, but it came out after he had already gone. So this is actually the last one that he had a beginning to end input in when he wasn't dealing with Disneyland and Disney World. So tells the story of Merlin and King Arthur as a child up until he pulls the sword out of the stone. Spoiler alert. So, Kate, this was your choice.
Yeah.
I know this is something we watched as a kid. You were really excited about. What is magical? What is still magical about this movie?
Okay, so I have such fond memories of this movie. At least I thought I had such fond memories of this movie. I am so drawn to Arthur. His childlike manner, his just honesty. I just love the character of Wart or Arthur. Archimedes had me laughing out loud. It was one of the few characters that had me laughing out loud. And okay, so this is where we talk about what we liked.
Yes.
The thing to me that made this movie was the music, believe it or not. I loved how everything was enhanced and was accented by the music. I kept getting drawn back to the background music and how, like, because you don't really have that anymore in today's movies. It's different. But just the way that the music accented, like when Archimedes' wings opened, or when Mad Madam Mim and Merlin were marching, and it was like bum 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 brum, and her feet like went in a circle real fast, and then they kept walking. I loved that. I also
Kate, as you should, it won the Oscar.
It did. I didn't know that.
For best score.
So, and rightfully so. The music really made it. Okay, Pete, you go.
So this is that time period we talked about it in the last episode when we were talking about the shorts, and I think it was Aquamaniacs or something, the Goofy short from this time period that they had starting with, I think, 101 Dalmatians. I don't know the specifics of it, but they changed how they animated things to reduce the cost, and I think it was using like mimeographs or things like that. But anyways, it makes the lines, the black lines, heavier.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the shift that happened between, I want to say it was between Sleeping Beauty, and then the things that followed it, where that shift happened. And so this was that 60s style of animation that Disney had. I don't always like it. I liked it in this. I thought it worked really well for a lot of the sequences in this in this movie, like the storm sequence, the underwater sequence when when Wart was a fish, even the Madam Mim suite, a lot of really quality animation for that. And I apologize for my cat, she's being very snuggly. A lot of very quality animation in this movie. I thought I was impressed with the animation. So that was my big what was magical. What about you, Steve?
For me, it was two parts of the sequences that I really enjoyed, and I think like Kate, because I know this is one of the things I sent in to Derek when I started first watching the Platoon. Hey, Sword in the Stone. The first one was the sequence with Arthur turned into the squirrel. Just great piece of animation. Ends in a very sad note. That poor girl.
The most sad note. Oh, the worst.
But just that entire sequence, and then the battle with Madame Mim and Merlin, just a great sequence. Music, just the battling back and forth. Those two were the highlights for me. As my husband said, those were like 5s out of the entire movie. So those two would be the parts that stood out to me the most. Derek.
For me, I would argue this has the best physical humor of any Disney animated movie. As far as it reminded me, like, especially the wolf, as far as him chasing Wart as both the human and that whole squirrel sequence is probably in the top 5 minutes of any Disney movie, as far as humor and action and just enjoyability. I also, Kate, I'm sorry, Archimedes is my spirit animal. Archimedes is my spirit animal.
Oh my God. While I was watching this, I literally was like, Archimedes is Derek. Derek is Archimedes. Especially the part when he's like, something about the boy? What boy? I don't see a boy around here. And then he comes and then he reaches out and grabs the cup.
And I'm sorry, the best laugh potentially in all of cinema is when the airplane dives and Archimedes dies laughing. Just that. I mean, Archimedes is probably top 5 Disney sidekicks of all time. If you like, as far as a straight humorous sidekick and antithesis to Merlin. I mean,
yeah, but could you compare? Like, it made me think of Cogsworth.
Oh yeah.
To Lumiere. Yeah. Like he is the Cogsworth to Lumiere.
Which is Cogsworth is much. I love David.
You are also Cogsworth.
Yeah. So just some of the humor really worked for me. Let's also say the songs were Sherman Brothers. So this was the first fully animated movie that they worked on.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they were not top tier Sherman Brothers though. Sorry,
Sherman Brothers songs, but compared to some of the other songs, to some of the later songs, like the ones in Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Have we watched Robin Hood?
No.
God, add that to our list. Who did the music for Cinderella? The original Cinderella.
Not the Sherman Brothers.
The only reason I ask is because the song that Merlin sings reminded me of Bippity Boppity Boo.
Yeah, it was a poor man's ripoff of
it was a ripoff of
Boo. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That tracks that.
For sure. Because I thought the same thing. In fact, it got me singing. I was going, Alakazoola,
yeah, same. That's why I was wondering if it was the same.
So wait a second. That's not what it is.
I sing Higgidus Figgidus. So,
well, good for you.
Yeah, I know.
What's Higgidus Figgidus?
That's what this was.
That's the song that Merlin sings.
I'm so sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you meant that the Higgidus Figgidus, that the song that Merlin sang made you think. Sorry, I misunderstood.
No, mine goes the other way.
Yeah.
Then again, I watched this. This was one of the first VHS of the Disney Classic editions that came out. This came out in like 86 or 87 on VHS. So this was one of the first, those big, thick plastic Disney movie cases. This was one of the first ones.
Okay.
So, let's talk about the voice talent on this. Sir Ector being also Bagheera, being also the narrator on the Winnie the Poohs.
Who's Bagheera?
Jungle
Book.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
But also being the narrator on the Winnie the Poohs. I mean, that voice that is a Disney standard voice.
Mm-hmm.
Here in a little bit, I'll talk about some of the voices that were not so great.
I do want to talk about one in particular.
Well, I think we're all thinking about the same voice that was really not good. But I just think this does have a lot going for it. Okay, does anyone else see Sir Kay and think the brothers from Tangled? Them looking similar.
I didn't think of that, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The
brothers entangled.
The kidnapping the two dude kidnappers.
Yeah, I forget the names.
Originally with Flynn to steal the thing, and they end up kidnapping her at the end.
Oh, ooh. Apparently, I haven't seen that movie in a hot minute.
Okay, vault of Disney knowledge. I mean, come on.
There.
I'm working on it.
Okay, but I just think
Stabbington Brothers.
Okay, I think this does have a lot going well for it. Steve, I'm going to give you first shot at what wasn't so great.
Story. When they pulled the sword out of the stone, they need to pull some story out of there. Because I look at it as it was all these short little vignettes, which were all the same. Merlin turns Arthur into an animal, and learns some sort of lesson, I guess. And then
it's the same lesson every time, too.
And miraculously, the other sire, whatever, is sick. So now Wart gets to go. And miraculously pulls out the sword out of the stone, and the story's done. And then, as my husband was saying, is we finally get to any villain at an hour into the movie, and it's for 10 minutes. And Mim's a great villain. I mean, they needed more Madame Mim. So to me, it was lack of story. I haven't read the origin where it comes from. So maybe Nick, you could talk about if you know more about the story. But I just felt
other than Arthur and the sword, I don't think there's anything from
Merlin.
Merlin
Okay. Is, but anyway, in the original Arthurian legend, this is how Arthur becomes king. Is he does pull a sword from the stone. No, it is not Excalibur. Excalibur is actually given to him by the Lady of the Lake. But this is a different sword. But this is how in the Arthurian legend he becomes king of England. And it was originally set up by Merlin, that Merlin said, this is how it's going to happen. If he did not come back from Bermuda, that actually also would have followed the Arthurian legend, because at some point when he's just about to mature, Merlin disappears. And we don't see Merlin the rest of the Arthurian legend.
Huh.
Okay. I've got some issues with this, definitely. We're going to start with Wart's voice.
Yes.
Mainly because there are 3 different young men who actually do his voice.
Is that why? I was like, is this kid in puberty or something?
Well,
because this doesn't make any sense.
Actually, yes. The first kid, the really high-pitched one, his voice changed as they were shooting it.
So that was it.
The director got his 2 sons to come in and do the rest of the voices. Now, this could have worked if they had done like early scenes with a higher pitch and then it got a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. That would have tracked.
Right.
But the fact that it changes in the middle of scenes.
It was so distracting. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that noticed it, because I was like, not only is he like he was also genuinely terrible in most of his line readings.
Yes.
Or they.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. I was like, this doesn't even sound like the same kid from line to line.
It wasn't. And let's not also mention that voice, though, did distract from how bad some of the British accents were. He also, did you notice, didn't have a British accent. He was an American King Arthur.
Yeah, I kind of forgive that in animated movies. I mean, it is what it is. Some characters, you know.
Pete, I'm definitely with you on, it felt like the mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh. It was definitely different vignettes that were not tied together. Specifically for me, the fish one could have been jettisoned completely. Because when they started the fish one, that's about the point where I'm going, okay, how far into this are we? How much more of this do we have to go? It definitely drug in places. It definitely had, it was very loosely connected to the Arthurian legends. But I don't know. Kate, what didn't work for you?
So I was so disappointed, y'all, because I remember just loving this movie. Let me rephrase. I remember loving parts of this movie as a kid. I remember loving Merlin. And I think, not to get too personal, but like, I feel like he was the fatherish figure that I never really had. And so I think I connected to that as a kid because I wanted someone to look out for me the way that Merlin was looking out for Arthur, which I know is twisted and weird. I know.
No, it works. I get it.
But I think that's why I loved Merlin. And every Merlin has an Archimedes. Look throughout everything. Every Merlin has an Archimedes. Are you the Archimedes to my Merlin, Derek? No, there's going to be we'll come up with a better thing.
No comment on that one.
But as I'm watching it, like I started the movie and I was so excited, right? And I was ready to be just like riveted the whole time. Because that's how I remember watching it as a kid. I had it on VHS. And we got like 30 minutes into it. And I was like, okay, I remember this. And I had to pause it because I had to go pick my husband up from the airport. And we came back and I was like, we have to finish Sword in the Stone as soon as I get home. And we get home and it's like, I loved the squirrel scene. I think that it was that's, in my opinion, animation genius. The way that you feel the emotions from these squirrels. And yes, heartbreaking. I was really hoping that there was going to be like
especially when he mentions once they mate for life. So now this girl squirrel has nobody.
Well, for some reason in my adolescent brain, I was like, no, it's okay because she comes back later when like Arthur is in peril and she like helps fight the battle for Arthur to win. I don't know where I came up with that in my brain.
I don't know where you came up with that, Kate.
But listen, that would have been a great story twist, right? Like that would have been a great callback to what happened before.
Merlin turns him into a squirrel and they run off and live happily ever after and he gives up the throne.
It's fine. And so I guess I made this movie into something it wasn't in my head. I thought Mad Madam Mim had a way bigger role than she does. She really doesn't have that big of a role. I thought I almost put her on the same level as like Cruella, where she's like so crazy and so evil. And she's not. She's nuts. Like she's a whack job, but yeah. And I said to Casey, I leaned over and I said, I think this scared me when she turned into a snake. I think that scared me when I was a kid, but the music was great. The storyline, it just had why is Merlin teaching him about turning into animals? Like how is that going to help him become worthy of pulling the sword from the stone? There was no,
there's no overarching story. No.
At all. And I don't know what, I guess over the years, my brain just like formulated a story that isn't there. And I'm so like, I know all of you, I'm curious to see your rankings on this because I know all of you didn't like my other pick. You guys have not liked any of my picks.
No, you did The Sandlot. You picked The Sandlot.
Oh my God. I literally today asked Casey on the drive home from the airport. I was like, someday can we be Squints and Wendy Peppercorn for Halloween? He was like, I don't know who that is. And I was like,
Oh.
get out of my car.
Why did you marry this guy? Why did you marry him? He
So
doesn't.
I had to say
Come on.
once I said the
Come on.
Sandlot, he was like, oh yeah, but the Rescuers Down Under. I know you all didn't like the Rescuers Down Under, but at least it had a storyline. Like at least it had a character.
That was better. So I'll say the main reason I didn't like the Rescuers Down Under is because I grew up with the Rescuers, and the Rescuers were barely in the Rescuers Down Under. So that kind of annoyed me about
if I remember correctly, the Rescuers is horribly sad.
And scary.
And
oh my gosh.
So scary when she gets stuck in the well. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
It is.
Sorry, we digress.
For our age, when we were the first ones seeing it in the theaters, the only thing scarier was Pinocchio.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Pinocchio was bad.
So it was just I have been wanting to watch it for a long time, thinking that it was way better than it was. It just wasn't. Pete, you go.
So you guys have hit a lot of my thoughts as well. There is absolutely no story in this movie at all. I mean, there's the story in theory is that that Merlin is training Arthur, but there's never, that isn't even really there isn't really a story there, because they just do stuff together. And then Merlin tells him brains over brawn like 3 different times. So it's like they had scene ideas, but they didn't have a way to put them together into a story, and then they just gave up. And I don't know. This was one of the few movies I never showed my daughter, and my wife and I watching this were like, well, we made the right call on that one. I do remember the Merlin and Madame Mim's show scenes from that would be shown on Disneyland or Disney, whatever the show was when I was a kid, The Wonderful World of Disney, I think it was called, on Sunday nights. So I remember that one scene. I don't remember anything else from this movie. I nodded off part through the squirrel scene. So I did see the end of it, but I mean, I was kind of fading in and out. I was just on the couch, but this movie was boring. It was boring. And then like they got to some semblance of a plot right at the end, and then they make him king, and it's like, all right, you're the king. Here's your castle. You're all by yourself. Like there's no court. There's no one to support him. There's no, and then Merlin comes back like genie, and from Bermuda, and I don't know. There's a lot of problems with this movie.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to recommend movies anymore.
No, keep recommending them. I'm glad I saw it because it was one that I hadn't seen. But yeah, it wasn't very good. So there were some good sequences in it. I will say that, but as a complete, I don't know how long was it. It felt like it was 2 hours. I think it was maybe 70 minutes. Yeah. It was not an entertaining movie.
Okay. Well,
in my
we'll
view,
see what we all thought of it. So, Kate, gonna start with you as always. What's your pixie dust rating for Sword in the Stone?
I'm gonna give it a 2, and it gets a 2 because Merlin, because of the relationship between Merlin and Archimedes and Arthur. Like, see, I almost want to move it to a 2.5, but I got it's the storyline is just, well, no, make it a 2.5 because my 2s have been that's a pretty tough one. So make it a 2.5. Okay, I'm done.
Gave Secret Invasion a 2.
Okay, yeah, give it a 2.5.
I'm gonna give this a 2, Kate. Sorry, I think that's similar. Again, yeah. Actually, I didn't say it, but Archimedes was entertaining. There were bits and pieces of this were entertaining. It's not the worst thing you can watch. As I said, there's some good sequences in it. The animation was quality. You did mention the music, but as a repeatable watch, it's not something I will probably go back to anytime soon. Steve?
Kate, I feel you. I think the same thing. I love the Madame Mim sequence, and that gets a 5 for me. But overall, it's a 2 which just kills me. So I think I have this misconception. I think, Pete, it's growing up seeing the little sequences on TV that I have this good memory of it, but overall, it's bad too.
It has the potential to be so good.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, but
It has the potential. Go ahead, Derek.
And I would argue it's there, guys. This gets a 3 for me. Realistically, yeah, it gets a 3 for me. Realistically, if you cut out the fish sequence, I liked the movie. You can't. Okay, look at the same thing though. If you watch Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh and cut out the birthday sequence, it's a great movie. The birthday sequence massively drags down.
Well, I think this is when you have to say, "Who are you and what have you done?" Like, this is not Derek.
No. Except you have to remember, I am all about the old classics. I am all about the old classics.
Yeah, but what did you give? Look up what you gave Rescuers Down Under.
I gave Rescuers Down Under a 3.
I think Derek just shocked all of us.
Wow, Derek, this might be the first time you've ever given the highest rating.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's not?
No.
What was the other one?
This isn't even the biggest spread.
What was the other one?
Swiss Family Robinson.
Oh yeah, you
I
are.
gave it a 4.5, and you guys were all twos and 2.5s.
Yeah,
so.
you did. Yeah, you are a big Swiss Family Robinson fan. I forgot about that.
And for me, because I remember I remember watching all of these as old, and I remember zoning out on the fish sequence. Because if you get rid of the fish sequence and you just look at it if you look at it as 15-minute cartoons stuck together, it's kind of funny. You look at it kind of like Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which are literally 15-minute cartoons stuck together.
I do want to say that I knew Merlin's voice from somewhere. He was in the Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Birds.
Yes, he was.
He was also Lars Hansen in Little House on the Prairie, which I grew up watching.
Now, where did you? Okay, we have heard Mad Madam's Mim voice recently. Where did we hear Mad Madam Mim's voice? And
I could not tell you.
Cut. I will be impressed if you guys get this.
No idea.
Okay, super deep.
Probably another. What?
Secret Invasion?
No, I said she was. She was the maid in 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I could see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But wait, hold on. Wasn't her voice also the maid in Mary Poppins?
No,
it wasn't the maid, but she was a cow in Mary Poppins. She was in the barnyard. She was the cow.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because they used a lot of the same voice actors in
look,
movies.
Wicked Stepmother from Cinderella and Maleficent and the original Madame Leota in Haunted Mansion are all the same woman. So, and let's not even forget Sterling Holloway. So, okay. For this next part, we are bringing in our producer Gina, and we're going to talk about. We've been watching our way through Rebels, coming up to Ahsoka actually premieres this week.
Now, it's on now.
Well, it will. From when we're taping this, yes, it is on now. But we will bring it on next week, mainly because we all have lives and we can't watch it immediately. But we watched Rebels season 4, episode 13, which was the World Between Worlds one, which is the time jumping and the portals and
love it. I love it.
Quantum Leap Star Wars style.
Love it.
And episode 15/15/16, which was the finale where Ezra and Thrawn get sucked off by these space whales.
The Purgle.
Space whales. And
space whales.
But then the last 2 minutes of the episode is probably the most important for Ahsoka, where we essentially find out that and if it doesn't do this, it's going to have big issues. But Ahsoka will actually take place post Battle of Yavin, when
Battle of Endor and Battle of Endor.
Yeah, sorry, I meant Battle of Endor. Sorry, post Battle of Endor, where green gal with
Hera.
Hera, thank you. I should remember that from my Greek mythology. Hera goes to find Ahsoka because they want to go find Ezra. And from what I've seen, they're going to bring the band back together in order to. It's going to be Blues Brothers. They're going to bring the band back together to be able
Let's
to go
hope.
find Ezra. And because the only one we haven't seen in the previews, well, there's two we haven't seen. We haven't seen Drax. Is it Drax?
Zeb.
Zeb.
It
Whatever.
looks like Drax. It's
Big,
fine.
big, funky
Whatever. We knew who
I
you're
mean,
talking about.
Which I hope, which Gene and I have talked about this. I hope they do that as practical effects rather than CGI.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And we haven't seen Ezra.
He's missing.
So
We
do
see a
We
in
see a shadow.
in the trailer we see the same hologram message that he left in
right, but do we
this
actually
last
see
episode.
him?
But we don't actually see him.
Right.
But they've cast somebody.
And there's
Yes.
the back of his head.
So
It's in the
Yeah.
back of his head.
Ooh, back of his head. Ooh. Ooh.
That was my.
So, Gina,
Right.
Pete, what? Okay, pretend you haven't watched any of these episodes yet. What do we need to know for Ahsoka?
Well,
But you just
I haven't
said-
watched Ahsoka yet.
Yeah, no, what you just said.
Oh,
No, what you
no, no,
just said. The trailer. Okay, so the trailer shows them looking for Ezra. So we know that Sabine, Hera, Zeb
Yeah.
are together with Ahsoka to find Ezra and defeat Thrawn. That's what we think.
Right.
Yeah. So to point out in things that we have watched and some things that we haven't, season 2 of Mandalorian was where Ahsoka first showed up.
Yes.
And in that she was looking for Thrawn. That's the only relation that
That's the only
episode had.
tie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she was already looking for Thrawn in that episode. Subsequently, in the last season of Mandalorian, there were mentions of Thrawn that when they had Giancarlo Esposito, I can't remember his character's Moff Gideon, and they had the council and everything, and they were talking about is Thrawn coming back or whatever. So clearly this is all leading up to Thrawn. I don't think this is a spoiler because no one said anything. I think there's no way Thrawn gets defeated in this Ahsoka season because I think he's being set up for I'm going to call it the Favreau verse. They've said they're going to do a final movie eventually wrapping up Mandalorian and everything. So I think that Thrawn is going to be the big bad for that. So I'm not saying he won't be in here and he might lose or something, but I think that I don't think they're setting there. I don't think we're going to see like Thrawn come back and then be defeated in the same series.
No.
Because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, we know that the Empire ends up winning during this period of time. So
no, this is after Endor. So this is
but 30 years later, they're back. So
they're back as the First Order, yes.
So we're not counting those.
Whatever.
Yeah. So I
this
think
is not part of that.
Yeah, I mean I totally agree with you. We're gonna get the Rebels band back together. We're gonna go find Ezra, and in the process, they're gonna find Thrawn, and he's gonna come back too. That's I think the main story. From the trailers that they've released, there's clearly some of Sabine having been trained by Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I'm also seeing
now, I don't know if
Ezra.
Right. So I don't think that is as a Jedi. I think that's just
Force
being
sensitive.
being trained to use a lightsaber and things.
Yeah.
One part of Rebels we didn't watch is at one point Sabine got the dark saber, if you remember that from the Mandalorian, and Kanan trained her to wield the dark saber, so she had and the dark saber is essentially a lightsaber. So it may be that case that Sabine was just being trained in how to fight with a lightsaber or something. I don't know. We're going to find out.
We'll see.
But it feels like it's going to be Ahsoka and Sabine are the main characters, and then Hera is going to be involved as well. So, and again, we haven't seen Zeb in the trailers. That doesn't mean he isn't going to show up.
We've seen Chopper. We've seen Chopper. Chopper's
We've
there.
seen Chopper. I mean, Chopper will definitely be there. That's,
So get a droid.
that's cool. The biggest a-hole of a droid in all of Star
I love
Wars.
him. He's the best droid. I can understand him. I like him the best because I can understand him. I speak Chopper. Anyway.
Chopper Archimedes.
Oh,
I can speak
Archimedes.
Chopper. I can speak
Yeah.
Chopper.
Archimedes all day.
Derek would be Chopper.
Oh, Chopper's too helpful.
There's well, you didn't watch the whole series. There's a lot of
No, I didn't watch
episodes
the
where
whole series. Because let's face it, I owe some Marvel people an apology that if we have to watch all of like Rebels and that crap just to enjoy this series, like we did all of Marvel crap, you're both equally ridiculous on the amount of backstory that is required to enjoy your shows.
well,
I'm
hopefully,
sorry.
Don't.
yeah,
Go ahead.
hopefully they can make this as a show that is enjoyable for people that know all this lore and people that don't. I think the best Star Wars, like Andor and the first season of The Mandalorian, you don't really need to know a lot. I
I
think
just
if you,
like knowing. I just like
Yeah.
knowing. I like knowing.
Oh,
I don't think you have to know.
and it should
I
make it
like
better. As I said, you know, to me, watching the end of Rebels and then going back and watching the Ahsoka trailer, you're like, wow. So
Mine.
at least I was.
No,
but-
it's great.
Kate,
Yeah.
we'll get through this, okay?
I resonate so much with what you said about like, but how much backstory do we actually need to watch this? show?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Uh-huh.
but I feel that this coming from somebody who is a big Marvel fan, so I get it.
Now
Good to
you
know.
get where I'm coming from
No,
on
I
that
think-
one too.
I will
but
say
honest-
though. Go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, honestly, I think what we watched over the last couple weeks was enough. I really do.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
I will say. Oh shoot! What was I gonna say?
Something about how you actually
oh,
like Rebels.
I will say
Yeah.
this show is much. This show being Rebels, much easier to watch than Clone Wars.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Clone Wars,
Yes.
like the problem is because Casey and I originally had wanted to do all of Star Wars in chronological order, and then we bailed out in Clone Wars. We were like, "This is awful. We can't watch this." If Clone Wars wasn't a thing, we might have made it all the way through. But
Yeah, I still would say if you're gonna do Star Wars chronological order, just skip the animated shows. I mean, if you're real, to me, the animated shows are all deep dive.
Yeah.
Right,
Super
they're
deep
they're
and
they're,
different.
they're either they're designed on two levels. They're designed for like kids to watch, just watch an episode, and they're
crazy
designed
people.
for like the
Crazy
super Star
people.
Wars nerds like Gina. And
but
I.
I mean,
Super
And
crazy.
Steve's
people.
kind of
But
Steve's
you
kind of
could-
on the edge.
you could say the same thing about some of the Marvel TV shows that we watched.
Right,
Granted, none of them
yeah.
were animated.
Yeah.
Mhm. And
But-
I would totally say like you can watch if you want to watch Marvel sequentially, you do not have to watch
The Punisher.
all the Netflix the Defenders ones.
They're
you don't
very
have to
good,
watch.
but you don't
Some
have
of
to
them
watch.
some of them are very good. Same thing with Agents of Shield. There's some seasons of Agents of
Yeah,
Shield that's very
agreed.
good, but you can completely skip over 7 seasons of Agents of Shield and still know all the other. You know, there's
Yeah.
not a lot in there that's
I only have to watch
necessary.
72 movies.
Right.
That's fair.
Well, no, it's like 40, right?
It's a lot. We did it, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Star Wars, quite honestly, for all the shit it gets, is a lot less. It's like what,
Yes.
11 movies,
11, 12 movies.
and
11 movies.
11 movies, and if you
One
skip
live
the
action.
animated stuff, there's
Two,
like four.
Three.
Boba Fett, Andor, Ahsoka, Mandalorian, right?
Well, okay, 4 now. Yeah.
Now 4, yeah.
So
It is much shorter to watch if you just skip the
Skip the Clone Wars.
animated. And again, you know, Kate, if you ever want to do it, that's the way I would do it, is just watch the movies and the TV shows, and that's it. You can
Yeah.
do it in like 6 months. You get into Clone Wars and even Rebels. You know, I said we hit the highlights here. If you did follow along, it gives you a good idea what the characters are. And you know, I think that's all you're really gonna need for Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And again, if they do it right, you really wouldn't even need that.
Okay. That's fair.
And for Clone Wars, just watch that last season because I'm all about Ahsoka anyway too.
or don't. So
Yeah, you don't have to watch
the last season, I like the last season of Clone
The
Wars
last season, there is some good stuff in Clone Wars, but I'm just saying,
It's the last
and as I said,
season.
I love Rebels and I'll recommend it to anybody,
Yeah.
but I still say, like, if there's things you're going to skip,
It's Clone Wars.
skip
Yeah.
these,
But-
skip the animated stuff.
Bad Batch is good
So.
too. Anyway, but that's okay. All right, let's move on.
Oh, sorry. Kate, what do we got
Again-
for Disney Plus news this week?
Again,
Go ahead,
Derek,
Pete.
why are you here?
Uh,
Don't want Star Wars, don't want Marvel.
listen to the first 30 minutes of the show. That is why I am here.
Okay, so we got to do more. We got to do more vault shows, is what you're saying.
Yes.
They're
Might I
coming.
suggest Robin Hood?
No,
Ooh, Kate, you're not the next choice, to be perfectly honest.
You
I
don't
think it's
like Robin
Steve's
Hood?
turn.
You don't like Robin Hood?
Okay,
It's-
Kate, what
it's
do we got
okay.
for the Disney Plus news?
Yeah, don't listen to my suggestions because my suggestions are not great. Although I do quote Robin Hood quite a bit. Okay. First up in the Disney Plus news, Ahsoka will be released on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Is that? Oh
Already
no, that's
happened.
9 Eastern
Turn.
Yep.
Standard Time for the length of its run. This is a change from most of the previous Disney Plus series, so it drops on Tuesdays instead of whatever the other day was.
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
usually.
Wednesdays. So,
Yeah, it would. Most of the shows would drop Wednesday at midnight Pacific.
Yeah,
So they're releasing it like 6 hours earlier.
but it
My
lets people
goodness.
watch it Tuesday.
Right.
all right. Next up, the Percy Jackson series will debut on Disney Plus on December 20th. I don't know much about Percy Jackson, but I think I'm gonna like this.
Is think very mythological. It's a young boy who deals with a lot of the different, especially Greek gods and goddesses.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
It
like
has
Harry Potter.
potential.
It's like
Yeah.
Harry Potter, but with
Is it?
gods.
Is it Marvel?
No,
No.
No, it's a different. It's a book. It's like a book series, like Harry
It's a book
Potter.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick
Oh, maybe
Riordan.
I should look into reading the Percy Jackson books.
I would suggest reading at least the first one to really get. Yeah, then the series would make a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, Lightning
Okay.
Thief is the first one, right?
I think
Yes.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm in my daughter's room. I was looking to see if she had it on her shelf, but she doesn't.
Next up, Loki season 1, WandaVision, and The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 are all going to be released on Blu-ray later this fall in time for Christmas. This may be the first step in making sure that true fans have access to the series in case they are removed from Disney Plus. That I feel like that would be very, very dumb for them to take those
But
off.
look at how much I mean, they spent $100 million on Willow, and it's nowhere to be found.
Wow. Yeah.
Fair, but I feel like the people will revolt. The peasants will rise.
Compared to how they're acting now, where they're losing 14 million subscribers a month.
Yeah.
I mean, just saying.
Wait a minute. They're losing 14 million in subscribers, or they're actually losing 14 million subscribers?
14 million subscribers. Disney
I didn't know
Plus
that.
is honestly Disney Plus is
tanking.
cratering.
It's really tanking. Yeah. Sad.
Yeah, and their solution seems to be they're going to put less out, which
Less is more, and more money is less.
By the way, at this point, they don't have a choice.
Pay
With-
more.
With no actors and no writers, they don't have a
True.
choice.
Oh, yeah.
yes,
That's true.
that's true. But I'm just saying, it sounds
Okay.
it's
But would you rather have more of the crap we've been watching lately? Or
No, I'd rather have
That's
their
true.
catalog. I'd rather have their catalog.
so
right.
Yeah.
Well, which you have,
I just don't want them to take the
but
catalog.
yeah, I'm
Oh,
very
and let's not forget the
disappointed.
price bump. Let's not forget the massive price bump that's
Yeah.
coming in
Pay
October.
more for less.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed that they haven't come up with more series like, and I know it wasn't successful, but like National Treasure and
Yeah,
like
it was
Willow
good.
and things like that. It's like everything doesn't have to be Star Wars. Everything doesn't have to be $100 million.
Or how about something that has a unique new idea?
Well, that's asking way too much.
Yeah,
I mean,
That's asking way too much. Come on.
but let's face it, if they're pulling in all these different franchises that they think they need series for, and the series are terrible, what's it really getting them?
Right.
So, okay,
Yeah.
next week, as we have been talking all for like a month, we're going to be doing the premiere of Ahsoka. So, if you want to come listen to Pete and Gina geek out about it, and the rest of us really tell you what it was really about and how it really was,
Okay.
make sure you tune in next week. as we do have actually a couple gaps coming up that we need ideas. I would love, guys, in 2 weeks, I have an idea, but I would love for one of our fans, definitely, and we're going to really put a plug out. Tell us what you want us to watch. Email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. Facebook message us, Instagram message us, send me a carrier pigeon. Even better would be send me a pigeon, a swallow carrying 2 coconuts. But okay, Kate, nothing
No,
on that
it's
one.
it's 2 swallows carrying a coconut.
Carrying
That's a
coconut.
line. Sorry, yeah. Depends on if they're African or European.
That's how I
anyway.
learned the Arthurian legend,
Yes,
which was more which was more
Makes more
accurate than this movie.
Oh,
much
no.
so. Very much so. And it's a pity Disney hasn't bought that one yet, because oh my gosh, would
That's
that
a
be
good
next week's
one.
show instead of Ahsoka? So, as the counterpoint to Sword in the Stone, no, it would, Pete, and you would go with it completely. So,
I'd also watch Ahsoka and talk about it though.
or just watch Holy Grail twice. So, guys, as I said, please give us suggestions. We need ideas. We have ideas, but apparently not all of them are great.
He is Archimedes.
If I had the power to drop you down right now, I would.
But
I don't have that power, but if I did,
am I wrong?
The Sandlot was a great suggestion. Thank you very much.
That was also like our 3rd show. So
yeah, and it was
126, and we're at 126 now. So
we've done 126 shows.
Excuse me, this is show 127.
Wow,
Kate,
27
I'll
shows.
take part of the blame because I did email Derek and I did suggest Sword in the Stone.
Ah, not my
Well,
fault.
So apparently I just need to be the one choosing. So, okay, guys, we do have new episodes coming out every Thursday on YouTube and all the major podcasting services for the entire crew. Gina, Kate, Pete, and Steve, thank you, and we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews, as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode, because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.